Rambo's Yamaha XT250 from First Blood wasn't just a dirt bike in an action film. It became the vehicle that carried Sylvester Stallone's traumatized Vietnam veteran through the Pacific Northwest wilderness, turning a modest Japanese enduro into an icon of survival and rebellion. The bike's simplicity perfectly matched John Rambo's no-nonsense character, with basic mechanics that could be repaired in the field and rugged construction that handled brutal terrain. But why did production choose a budget enduro over more powerful alternatives? How did a prop master's mistake nearly destroy the only bike they had? And what happened to the motorcycle that survived one of cinema's most brutal chase sequences? These are 20 weird facts about Rambo's Yamaha XT250 that will blow your mind. Number 20. The budget bike selection. The production chose the Yamaha XT250 specifically because it was cheap, reliable, and expendable if destroyed during filming. First Blood operated on a modest $8 million budget, tiny compared to modern action films. Every dollar mattered, and production couldn't afford expensive motorcycles they might wreck. The XT250 cost approximately $1,300 new in 1981, far less than premium dirt bikes from Honda or Suzuki. Yamaha's Enduro had another crucial advantage: availability. Yamaha dealers stocked them widely, meaning replacement parts and even complete bikes could be sourced quickly if filming damaged or destroyed their primary machine. The bike's 243 cubic centimeter air-cooled engine produced modest power, but offered excellent reliability. It wouldn't win races, but it wouldn't break down either, crucial for a production, filming in remote British Columbia locations, far from repair facilities. The XT's simple maintenance requirements meant the film's mechanics could handle repairs without specialized tools or training. Yamaha's parts pricing was reasonable too, keeping ongoing costs manageable. Director Ted Kotcheff wanted authenticity over flash. Rambo wasn't a professional racer. He was a drifter who'd grab whatever transportation he could find. An ordinary, well-used dirt bike fits that character perfectly. The production bought 3 identical XT250s for filming, planning to use one as the hero bike, one for stunts, and one for parts. Number 19. The Stallone riding inexperience. Sylvester Stallone had minimal motorcycle experience before First Blood, creating serious safety concerns that nearly got him replaced for all riding sequences. Stallone could ride a bicycle and had driven cars in previous films, but motorcycles were completely different. The production hired stunt coordinator Benny Dobbins to teach Stallone basic riding skills during pre-production. They had 3 weeks to transform him from nervous beginner to convincing rider. Dobbins started Stallone on a small Honda trail bike in parking lots, teaching clutch control and balance. Stallone dropped that bike repeatedly, bruising his leg and ego. The XT250 was significantly more powerful and heavier than the training bike. When Stallone first attempted riding it, he whiskey throttled immediately, nearly crashing into camera equipment. Dobbins questioned whether Stallone could safely perform even basic riding shots. Insurance companies were equally concerned, insisting on stunt doubles for anything beyond slow-speed close-ups. Stallone's pride was wounded. He'd performed his own stunts in Rocky and wanted the same authenticity for Rambo. He practiced obsessively, riding the XT every evening after filming Wrapped. His determination paid off gradually. By the second week of motorcycle filming, Stallone could execute basic maneuvers convincingly. He mastered starting, stopping, turning, and maintaining smooth throttle control. What he couldn't do safely was high-speed riding or technical terrain. The production used stunt doubles extensively, but Stallone's foundational skills allowed more close-up shots than initially expected. Number 18. The single bike gamble. Despite buying 3 XT250s initially, production destroyed 2 during testing and rehearsals before principal photography even began, leaving just 1 bike for the entire film. The first bike was wrecked during stunt rehearsals when a rider miscalculated a jump and landed on rocks. The frame bent beyond repair and the engine cracked. Total loss. The second bike survived longer, but was destroyed during pyrotechnic testing. Special effects coordinator Al Griswold was experimenting with explosive charges for the climactic town destruction sequence. He mounted charges too close to the parked motorcycle. When detonated during testing, shrapnel punctured the fuel tank and severed wiring. The bike caught fire before anyone could extinguish it. 2 bikes were gone before filming started. The production faced a crisis. Their budget had no allocation for additional motorcycles. Director Ted Kotcheff considered eliminating some motorcycle sequences to preserve the remaining bikes. Stunt coordinator Benny Dobbins argued they could film everything with 1 bike if they were careful and use camera tricks. Kotcheff agreed reluctantly. The single remaining XT250 became precious cargo. Mechanics inspected it daily. Security watched it constantly. The stunt coordinator approved every riding sequence personally, ensuring nothing risked destroying their only bike. The gamble worked. That single Yamaha survived the entire production, appearing in every motorcycle scene through careful planning and skilled stunt work. But the pressure of protecting their only bike added stress to an already challenging production. Number 17, the engine noise enhancement. The XT250's actual exhaust note was too quiet for dramatic effect, forcing sound designers to completely replace it with recordings from larger, more aggressive motorcycles. Yamaha designed the XT as a trail bike for recreational riding. It featured a spark arrestor and baffle system, creating a muted exhaust note that wouldn't disturb wildlife or anger neighbors. Perfect for trail riding, terrible for action films. Sound supervisor John Wilkinson recorded the actual bike and was disappointed. The quiet burble lacked the aggressive bark needed for chase sequences. Wilkinson built a custom motorcycle sound library specifically for First Blood. He recorded a Yamaha XT250 motocross bike for its sharp, aggressive 2-stroke snarl. He added a Honda XR 500 for a deeper 4-stroke rumble. He layered in mechanical sounds from a Kawasaki KDX for gear whine and chain noise. The combination created something that sounded powerful and threatening, nothing like the actual XT. Sound editors synchronized these recordings to match throttle position and engine speed frame by frame. During the forest chase, they emphasized the IT's angry 2-stroke bark. In close-ups, they brought in the XR's authoritative 4-stroke thump. The result was a bike that sounded dangerous and fast, perfectly matching Rambo's desperate escape. Yamaha never commented on the sound replacement. Their marketing materials didn't capitalize on the First Blood appearance anyway, perhaps because Rambo was portrayed as a troubled veteran, rather than the heroic figure they'd want associated with their brand. Number 16, the cliff jump controversy. The famous cliff jump into the river wasn't performed on the actual XT250, but rather a lightweight mock-up fabricated from aluminum tubing and fiberglass. Stunt coordinator Benny Dobbins calculated that dropping a real motorcycle from that height would destroy it on impact with the water. They couldn't risk their only remaining bike. Special effects supervisor Al Griswold built a replica that looked identical to the XT, but weighed only 73 pounds compared to the real bike's 254 pounds. The mock-up used aluminum tubing for the frame, fiberglass body panels, and foam rubber components painted to match metal. The lightweight construction allowed stuntman buddy Joe Hooker to control it during the fall and ensured it wouldn't sink immediately upon hitting the water. Hooker rode a real XT250 up to the cliff edge for close-up shots showing Rambo's face. The camera cut away as he approached the edge. When filming resumed showing the bike airborne, Hooker was riding the lightweight mock-up. The difference is invisible on screen because the mock-up was crafted meticulously to match every detail. After hitting the water, divers recovered the mock-up, and it was reused for additional water sequences. The lightweight construction meant it floated naturally rather than sinking like a real motorcycle would. The cliff jump became one of First Blood's most iconic moments, but it was achieved through movie magic rather than actually destroying their precious motorcycle. The real XT stayed safely on solid ground while its stunt double took the plunge. Number 15, the Washington State location deception. First Blood setting was supposedly Washington State near the town of Hope, but every motorcycle sequence was actually filmed in British Columbia, Canada, creating tax advantages and logistical benefits. The production chose Hope, British Columbia as their primary location for its resemblance to Pacific Northwest America, while offering Canadian tax incentives. British Columbia provided substantial rebates for productions filming in the province. These incentives saved hundreds of thousands of dollars, crucial for the modest budget. The deception required careful continuity management. Washington and British Columbia have different license plates, road signs, and landscape characteristics. Production designer Wolf Kroger created fake Washington road signs and installed them at filming locations. The XT250 received a fake Washington license plate for scenes where it was visible. British Columbia's Fraser Canyon provided the dramatic landscape needed for motorcycle chase sequences, dense forests, mountain roads, and the Capilano River for water scenes. Filming in actual Washington would have required different locations without the concentrated geographic advantages British Columbia offered. Local authorities in Hope cooperated fully, understanding the economic benefits film production brought. They closed roads for filming and provided support services. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police coordinated with production to ensure safe filming conditions. First Blood revitalized Hope's economy and put the small town on the map. Ironically, this Canadian town benefited enormously from portraying an American location, with tourists visiting Washington State landmarks that were actually in British Columbia. Number 14. The Prop Master's Fuel Mistake. Prop master Jim Franahoni nearly destroyed the production's only remaining XT250 by accidentally filling it with automotive gasoline instead of the required gas oil mixture two-stroke engines need. The XT250 used a four-stroke engine, but Frangione confused it with the two-stroke IT450 they'd used for sound recording. Two-stroke engines require oil mixed with gasoline for lubrication. Four-strokes have separate oil systems and run on pure gasoline. Frangione mixed a two-stroke fuel batch, gasoline with 25:1 oil ratio, and filled the XT's tank. When the bike started, it immediately began smoking excessively and running terribly. The engine knocked and misfired, barely maintaining idle. Mechanic Dave Hanks recognized the problem immediately. Oil-contaminated fuel was fouling the spark plug and coating everything inside the engine. Hanks shut it down before catastrophic damage occurred, but the mistake meant draining the tank and fuel system completely. They had to remove the carburetor, clean it thoroughly, replace the spark plug, and flush the fuel lines. The repair took 6 hours and delayed filming an entire day. Stallone was furious about the delay, as the motorcycle sequence was already behind schedule. Frangione was mortified, offering to pay for any damage from his own pocket. Fortunately, Hanks's quick recognition prevented permanent engine damage. The bike ran perfectly after cleaning, but the incident added new protocol. Only designated mechanics could fuel vehicles, removing that responsibility from the prop department entirely. Number 13. The stunt double's background buddy, Joe Hooker. Stallone's primary motorcycle stunt double was a championship motocross racer who'd competed professionally before transitioning to Hollywood stunt work. Hooker had raced professionally throughout the 1970s, earning multiple regional championships in California. Injuries eventually ended his competitive career, but his elite riding skills transferred perfectly to stunt work. By 1981, Hooker was Hollywood's go-to-motorcycle stunt performer, having worked on dozens of films requiring expert riding. First Blood needed someone who could ride the XT250 aggressively through challenging terrain while making it look effortless. Hooker fit perfectly. His motocross background meant technical trails and jumps were routine. He could ride at speed through dense forest, navigate rocky terrain, and execute controlled crashes safely. Benny Dobbins hired Hooker specifically for the forest chase sequence, knowing it would require world-class skill. The sequence involved riding at high speed through trees, across streams, and over obstacles that would challenge even expert riders. Hooker performed it all, barely breaking a sweat. His professional racing experience showed in how smoothly he rode. Where amateur riders would be tense and jerky, Hooker looked fluid and relaxed. The camera captured his natural riding style, making the chase feel authentic rather than choreographed. Hooker's compensation for first blood was modest by modern standards, approximately $8,000 for 3 weeks of dangerous stunt work. He considered it worthwhile for the exposure and footage for his stunt reel. The forest chase became one of his signature sequences, helping build his reputation as Hollywood's premier motorcycle stunt performer. Number 12. The tire compound controversy. The production used special soft compound trials, tires on the XT250 instead of standard enduro tires, creating superior traction for filming but wearing out after only hours of riding. Yamaha equipped the XT with dual-purpose tires designed for mixed street and trail use. These tires were durable but offered mediocre traction in mud and loose terrain. Stunt coordinator Benny Dobbins wanted maximum traction for the forest chase sequences. Standard tires would slide excessively on the wet forest floor and muddy trails. He sourced Michelin Trials competition tires, specifically designed for maximum grip in technical terrain. These soft compound tires featured aggressive tread patterns that dug into loose surfaces. The traction improvement was dramatic. Buddy Joe Hooker could ride aggressively through sections that would have been impossible on standard tires. The bike hooked up on muddy climbs and cornered confidently on wet roots and rocks. But soft trials tires wear incredibly fast. Normal trials competition runs last minutes, not hours. Film production required extended riding sessions. The tires shredded quickly, particularly on rocky sections that would barely mark normal tires. The production went through 11 rear tires during motorcycle filming, and we saw unprecedented consumption rate. Each tire cost approximately $65, adding over $700 to the budget just for rubber. Mechanics changed tires constantly, sometimes twice in a single day. They kept detailed logs tracking tire condition, recommending changes before complete failure. The soft compound also meant the bike couldn't be ridden on pavement between locations. Technicians had to trailer it everywhere, adding time and logistics complexity. Number 11. The bridge jump miscalculation. The wooden bridge jump sequence required 3 attempts because stunt coordinator calculations didn't account for the XT250's limited power and Buddy Joe Hooker's weight. The script called for Rambo to jump the motorcycle across a collapsed section of Forest Bridge, clearing approximately 12 feet. Benny Dobbins calculated the required speed and ramp angle based on the bike's specifications. They built a wooden ramp on one side of the gap and positioned cameras to capture the jump. First attempt, Hooker accelerated toward the ramp, but the XT's modest 250 cubic centimeters engine couldn't generate sufficient speed on the short approach. He hit the ramp below target velocity and came up short, landing in the gap rather than clearing it. Hooker crashed hard, but his protective gear prevented serious injury. The bike suffered bent handlebars and a cracked fender. Second attempt, Dobbins extended the approach run, giving Hooker more distance to build speed. This time, Hooker hit the ramp at proper velocity, but the ramp angle was too steep. The bike launched nearly vertical, causing Hooker to lose control in midair. He landed badly on the far side, slamming down on the rear wheel and compressing the suspension completely. Minor injuries, but another reset required. Third attempt, Dobbins reduced the ramp angle and gave Hooker maximum approach distance. Perfect execution. The bike cleared the gap with feet to spare, landing smoothly on the far side. The shot made the final cut, looking effortless despite the 3 attempts and 2 crashes required to achieve it. Number 10. The exhaust modification. Necessity. The XT250 stock exhaust pipe sat too low for the rough terrain filming required, forcing mechanics to fabricate a custom, high-mounted pipe that changed the bike's entire appearance. Yamaha positioned the exhaust along the bike's right side, typical for street-oriented enduros. This placement worked fine for trails, but became problematic during First Blood's aggressive filming. The pipe repeatedly struck rocks, logs, and obstacles during forest sequences. After the third impact dented the pipe and restricted exhaust flow, mechanic Dave Hanks proposed a solution. He fabricated a custom exhaust pipe that routed upward and rearward, positioning it above the frame near the seat. This high-mount design cleared obstacles that would have destroyed the stock pipe. The modification required welding new mounting brackets and adjusting the silencer angle. The custom pipe looked distinctly different from stock, giving the bike a more aggressive race appearance. Hanks wrapped it in heat-resistant tape to prevent burns during handling. the modification worked perfectly, surviving the rest of filming without damage. The custom exhaust became one of the bike's most distinctive visual features, though most viewers never consciously noticed the non-stock configuration. Number 9. The color fade problem. The XT250's original red paint faded dramatically during outdoor filming in British Columbia's intense summer sun, creating continuity problems that required touch-ups between scenes. Yamaha painted the 1981 XT in bright red with white accents. The paint looked vibrant initially, but British Columbia's summer filming occurred during unusually sunny weather. Extended exposure to UV radiation began fading the red within 2 weeks. The paint shifted from bright red toward dull orange-pink, particularly on the fuel tank and side panels. Script supervisor noticed the color inconsistency when reviewing dailies. Early scenes showed a vibrant red bike, while later footage showed noticeably faded paint. The production couldn't afford repainting the entire motorcycle mid-filming. Instead, they assigned a props assistant to touch up faded areas daily using automotive spray paint color matched to the original red. This maintenance required careful masking to prevent overspray and multiple thin coats to blend properly. The touch-ups worked adequately for filming distance, but close inspection revealed uneven texture. The final film shows subtle color variations throughout motorcycle sequences, though most viewers never notice. The faded sections actually added character, making the bike look more worn and realistic for a drifter's transportation. Number 8. The chain breakage crisis. The XT's drive chain snapped during the climactic town chase sequence, stranding Buddy Joe Hooker mid-take and forcing a 2-hour production delay while mechanics installed a replacement. Yamaha equipped the XT with a standard chain, adequate for normal riding, but film production subjected it to extreme abuse. Constant high RPM acceleration, abrupt throttle changes, and impacts from jumps stressed the chain beyond design limits. During a take requiring Hooker to accelerate hard from a standstill, the chain snapped catastrophically. The sudden failure locked the rear wheel briefly before the broken chain cleared. Hooker nearly crashed but managed to stop safely. The broken chain had damaged the chain guard and scratched the swing arm. Mechanic Dave Hanks examined the failure and found multiple stiff links from inadequate lubrication. The constant dirt and water exposure during forest filming had contaminated the chain, despite regular cleaning. Hanks installed a heavy-duty O-ring chain designed for motocross abuse, significantly stronger than the stock chain. He also implemented hourly lubrication checks rather than daily. The upgrade solved the problem completely. The new chain survived the remainder of filming without issues, though it cost 3 times what the stock chain did. Number 7. The seat foam deterioration. Extended exposure to water during river and rain sequences caused the XT's seat foam to absorb moisture and deteriorate into a soggy mess that Hooker complained made riding uncomfortable. The stock seat used open-cell foam that absorbed water like a sponge. Yamaha's design assumed riders would avoid prolonged water exposure or could dry the seat between rides. Film production offered no such luxury. The bike spent hours in rain machines, was submerged partially during river scenes, and sat outdoors during wet British Columbia weather. The foam saturated completely, becoming heavy and squishy. Hooker complained it felt like riding on a wet mattress. The waterlogged foam never fully dried between filming days, remaining perpetually damp. Worse, moisture encouraged mold growth inside the cover. After 3 weeks, the seat developed a musty odor and visible mildew stains. The production authorized replacing the seat, but mechanics couldn't source a new one locally. They improvised by removing the original foam, squeezing out water, and replacing it with closed-cell foam scavenged from a camping mat. This foam wouldn't absorb water and dried quickly. They wrapped it in the original seat cover after cleaning away mold. The modification worked perfectly, remaining dry despite continued water exposure. Number 6. The kickstart reliability. The XT250's electric start failed repeatedly during cold morning filming, forcing riders to use the backup kickstart mechanism that Stallone never mastered despite repeated attempts. Yamaha equipped the XT with both electric and kickstart options, unusual for that era. The electric start worked reliably in normal conditions, but British Columbia's cold mountain mornings defeated it. The battery struggled to turn over the cold engine, particularly after sitting overnight. Morning temperatures regularly dropped to 40 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to thicken oil and reduce battery capacity. Mechanics would arrive early, attempting to start the bike electrically before filming began. Often it refused, requiring kickstarting instead. Buddy Joe Hooker could kickstart the XT effortlessly, one smooth motion bringing the engine to life. Stallone never developed the technique despite instruction. He'd kick repeatedly, flooding the engine or failing to find the compression stroke. Close-up shots requiring Stallone to start the bike became problematic. The solution involved mechanics starting the bike off camera. Then Stallone would simply twist the throttle as if he'd started it. For scenes requiring visible starting, they waited until afternoon, when temperatures rose enough for reliable electric starting. The kickstart proved essential backup throughout filming, despite being initially considered redundant. Number 5. The headlight disconnection. Director Ted Kochev ordered the XT's headlight disconnected for most scenes because he felt it looked too civilized and wanted the bike to appear more utilitarian and stripped down. The stock XT featured a small round headlight mounted on the handlebars, standard equipment for street-legal enduros. Kochev reviewed early footage and disliked how the headlight made the bike look like ordinary transportation. He wanted Rambo's bike to appear rougher, more desperate. He requested the headlight be removed completely. The problem was removing the headlight left an obvious mounting bracket and wiring that looked incomplete. The compromise involved disconnecting the headlight electrically, but leaving it physically mounted. For most shots, they aimed cameras to minimize headlight visibility, or positioned it in shadow. For closer shots where the headlight was prominent, they removed it entirely and covered the mounting hole with black tape. This selective approach meant the headlight appeared and disappeared throughout the film, depending on shot composition. Continuity supervisors tracked which configuration belonged in which scenes. Predictably, mistakes occurred. Several shots show the headlight when it shouldn't be there, or vice versa. Most viewers never noticed these inconsistencies, but motorcycle enthusiasts spotted them immediately, documenting every appearance and disappearance on online forums decades later. Number 4. The suspension bottoming issue. Buddy Joe Hooker's weight combined with jump impacts caused the XT's rear suspension to bottom out repeatedly, requiring mechanics to install stiffer springs and increase preload beyond Yamaha specifications. Hooker weighed 215 pounds, heavier than the average rider Yamaha designed the XT for. Add protective gear and impact forces from jumps, and the stock suspension was overwhelmed. During the first jump sequence, the suspension compressed fully on landing, slamming the frame against the rear axle with a loud clang. The impact bent the chain guard and cracked a weld on the subframe. Mechanic Dave Hanks recognized the suspension was inadequate for stunt work. He installed progressive rate springs from a larger Yamaha Enduro, significantly stiffer than stock. He also cranked the preload adjusters to maximum, raising the bike's ride height noticeably. The modifications eliminated bottoming, but made the ride harsh over small bumps. Hooker adapted, knowing harsh suspension was better than mechanical failures. The stiffer setup also changed the bike's appearance, sitting higher and looking more aggressive. Several scenes show the modified suspension's increased ride height, though most viewers attributed it to camera angles rather than mechanical changes. The suspension modifications proved essential for surviving the demanding stunt work without destroying the only remaining motorcycle. Number 3. The fake dirt application. The XT appeared too clean in early filming, prompting the art department to create a formula for applying fake dirt that looked authentic on camera but washed off easily between scenes. A freshly cleaned motorcycle looked wrong for a character living rough and riding through forests. The art department needed controllable dirt that could be applied consistently. Real mud was problematic. It dried differently depending on temperature and humidity, creating continuity problems. They developed a mixture of Fuller's earth, cocoa powder, and water that created a convincing mud texture. This formula could be sprayed onto the bike, creating realistic dirt patterns. The cocoa powder added brown tones that were photographed as authentic mud. Best of all, it washed off completely with water, allowing clean resets between takes. Each morning, props assistants would apply fresh fake dirt, following reference photos to maintain consistency. They'd splatter it on wheels, spray it on bodywork, and cake it on the engine. The process took 30 minutes daily, but ensured continuity across scenes filmed weeks apart. Close examination reveals the fake dirt looks slightly too uniform, lacking the random patterns real mud creates. But at filming distance, it convinced audiences completely. The formula became standard in the props department, used on multiple films afterward whenever they needed controllable dirt effects. Number 2. The lost original bike. The actual XT, a 250 used in First Blood, disappeared after filming Wrapped and has never been definitively located, despite numerous claims of ownership over 4 decades. After production concluded, the bike should have been returned to Yamaha or sold through normal channels. Instead, it vanished. Production records show it was last seen at the Equipment Return Depot in Vancouver. After that, nothing. Over the years, dozens of people have claimed to own the original First Blood XT. Each claim collapses under scrutiny. Some bikes are wrong year models, others have incorrect modifications. Several are obvious replicas built by fans. The challenge is that the production made minimal custom modifications that would definitively identify their bike. No special markings, no unique parts, nothing that separates it from thousands of other 1981 XT250s. The custom exhaust could have been removed and sold separately. The seat foam was replaced with generic material. Even the faded paint could have been repainted by any subsequent owner. One credible claim emerged in 2008 when a British Columbia mechanic produced a bike with provenance suggesting it came from the film's equipment auction. He had purchase receipts and photos showing the bike at the production depot. Experts examined it thoroughly, but couldn't confirm definitively it was the screen-used bike versus one of the destroyed test bikes. Number 1. The Yamaha sales impact. First Blood's success created zero measurable increase in Yamaha's XT250 sales, making it one of the rare instances where prominent film placement generated no commercial benefit whatsoever. Unlike other iconic movie vehicles that triggered sales surges, the XT remained obscure. Several factors explain this failure. First, Rambo wasn't portrayed as heroic in the first film, but rather as a damaged, violent veteran. Audiences sympathized with him, but didn't necessarily want to emulate him. Second, the motorcycle appeared briefly in the overall runtime, overshadowed by the survival sequences and action that defined the film. Third, Yamaha did nothing to capitalize on the placement. They ran no special promotions, created no First Blood editions, and barely acknowledged the connection in marketing materials. The company seemed almost embarrassed by the association with a violent R-rated film. Fourth, the XT250 was already being phased out when the film was released. Yamaha was transitioning to newer models and had minimal interest in promoting an outgoing bike. Dealerships reported no spike in XT inquiries after the film's release. Sales figures from 1982 and 83 showed the model's continued decline regardless of its screen appearance. The XT quietly disappeared from Yamaha's lineup in 1983, unmourned except by a small group of enthusiasts. First Blood made Rambo a cultural icon, but did absolutely nothing for the motorcycle he rode. Rambo's Yamaha XT250 wasn't a glamorous superbike or exotic custom. It was an ordinary enduro that happened to carry a traumatized veteran through the wilderness and into cinema history. From broken chains to lost originals, the truth behind this modest machine proves that sometimes the most unassuming vehicles tell the most compelling stories. Compelling stories. Compelling stories. Compelling stories.